Alright, so this is a story about the recall referendum process and recalling elected officials here in Montana in detail. If you go to jeremytravis.com in the blog, you can see this write up, but I'll record it for the podcast and TikTok here as well. So, nothing worth doing is ever easy. What I want to explain here are the two petitions that are in the works. The first one is sponsored by Jenny Dodd. She is a Great Falls and therefore Cascade County resident who has been a local watchdog journalist. She's gathering signatures actively to start a referendum election in Montana law, in Montana Code Annotated, or MCA 7 5 132. There is a procedure for initiative or referendum. An initiative is when citizens want to implement an ordinance that doesn't exist and for which they cannot get their governing body to institute, while a referendum is a process to repeal and reject an ordinance that has been enacted. To be successful with a local referendum, the law says that the petitioner must first get a petition form approved by the county election administrator. Well, we didn't have one for the minute, but now we have an interim named Deb Biddick. She had worked with Sandra for a year before the county commissioners stripped Sandra of the elections office responsibilities. So now Miss Biddick is responsible for working with the county attorney and Miss Dodd to approve this petition form. The petitioner had to make some decisions because of muddy state law in this area, including whether or not legislative precincts must be included on the form. That was unclear, and it's likely a safe decision to leave them off, so that's what was decided. It would have been confusing to ask signers what their precinct was. No one would know, and further, the legislative districts and precincts have changed due to redistricting. So which district number would be correct? The old numbers or the new ones? So it was left out, and a judge can decide later if that was the right move if the petition is challenged. So now what? Now that the petition for referendum has been approved, there's a dual deadline. If within 60 days the required number of signatures are collected, then the ordinance or resolution in this case is put on hold, paused, until the election is held by ballot. If the 60-day deadline is not met, then the resolution made by the commissioners stays in place until the required signatures are collected, which must be done in 90 days, and an election by ballot decides the question. The clock is ticking on that, so Ms. Dodd does need help. How many signatures are needed? Around 7,000 plus some extra just in case, so round up to 7,500. 7,000 equals 15% of the 47,000 local government's qualified electors, meaning that there are that many recent registered voters in Cascade County. A couple of other technicalities include that the petition must target one ordinance, in this case Resolution 2362, and be clear in the intention to repeal it. Alright, so now how do we recall an elected official? According to Montana law, in the Montana Recall Act at MCA 2-16-601 through 635, starting mainly in 2-16-603, the officers are subject to recall, and grounds for recall are covered. Any person holding a public office in the state or political subdivisions is subject to recall. They must be recalled by the qualified electors entitled to vote for that elective officer's successor, which means that Cascade County voters would be eligible to participate in a recall of a county commissioner. Montana is one of a number of states that require cause to be declared to qualify a recall petition. What sort of things constitute cause? Physical or mental lack of fitness, incompetence, violation of the oath of office, official misconduct, or conviction of a felony offense. One of those must be included as a reason for the recall. There's been some debate about which one to choose, but I'll give you my opinion. I believe Joe Briggs and Jim Larson have likely committed official misconduct by meeting to discuss official business with a quorum and without a public notice period. There's a lot to unpack there. There are 3 county commissioners. A quorum to conduct business, decision making, and votes takes 2. A majority of this particular board. County commissioners must be especially careful to notify the public if at least 2 of them will be in any given place simultaneously because of public right to know laws. As the public, we have a right to public proceedings of decision making that public boards make. We have very robust sunshine and open meeting laws in Montana. Having a meeting, discussing business, and not letting the public know with at least 48 hours of notice violates open meeting laws and constitutes potential official misconduct. Even without a recall election, a judge could convict and remove an elected official for the cause of official misconduct, by the way. There is this potentially easier way hanging out there. Getting back to the petition process, assuming the petitioner for recall chooses one of these reasons for cause to move forward and swears to the accuracy of their belief, the rest of the process swings into motion. The elections administrator must also approve the petition with some advice from the county attorney about whether to approve or deny. The county attorney, by the way, isn't technically a part of the process per law, but helps assist Ms. Biddick in this case. The petition may not name more than one officer to be recalled and may not be against an officer until they have held office for at least 2 months. Further, suppose a recall election has been held and is unsuccessful. In that case, another recall cannot be conducted again within 2 years unless the election costs are reimbursed to the county for the preceding recall election. How many signatures are required for this petition? Again, 15% of the qualified electors who are voters eligible to vote in Cascade County, or about 7,000. And additionally, at least 15% of the commissioner's district must be included. Joe Briggs's district is Commission District 1 and includes much of the area west of the Missouri River going out towards Sun Prairie. The form of the petition must include certain clear language by law and is limited to a 200-word statement about the reasons for recall. The form of the petition sheets must be 8.5 by 14 inches, must have a horizontal line 1.5 inches from the top, and the space must remain blank. The space above. The sheets cannot be greater stacks than 25, in addition to a few other minor requirements. In MCA 2-16-618, the law says that the forms prescribed in this part are not mandatory, and if substantially followed, shall be sufficient. Kind of confusing, but we'll aim for substantially followed. Once signature gathering kicks off in earnest, signature gatherers must turn in their signature sheets within 2 months of the date the form of the petition was approved, or 3 months actually. Each stack of up to 25 sheets must be accompanied by an affidavit from the person who gathered the signatures, swearing to certain statements, which occurs at the elections office. These sheets must be notarized too, by the way. Here's a real kicker. The county clerk is to verify signatures, not the elections administrator, the county clerk. So by law, Sandra Merchant is the officer required to verify signatures in the process. Once the required number of signatures is collected, the officer who is the target of the recall is officially notified and given up to 200 words to respond as to why they shouldn't be recalled. Finally, the officer remains in office until results are declared. If the officer is recalled, then a vacancy occurs, and the vacancy is filled, in my understanding, by the remaining 2 commissioners. I have a piece written up on my blog at jeremytrevas.com about what happens if 2 commissioners are recalled or removed from office by a judge for conviction of official misconduct. That one gets in the weeds, but is interesting in who gets to choose the appointments. That's it for this piece, and thanks for reading.